You be the judge. I'm going to put forward the case and the evidence. Why the government is misleading us on this age verification bill, why they are lying to us, why they are deceiving us. I'm going to put forward the case that this has nothing to do with so-called protecting the children, and it is all about greater surveillance, more government control, more power to the bureaucracy, more censorship, and this idea that is protecting the children is just a smokescreen and being used as a Trojan horse. But I'll go through the details and you make up your own mind. Now, firstly, what is of real concern on this legislation is that the Parliament has subcontracted out to how this legislation is going to work to the E-Safety Commissioner. Just listen to these comments by the new Labor Minister, Annika Wells. Just another typical Labor minister, completely out of their depth, no experience in the real world, that she's talking about what's called in the legislation reasonable steps, which should be for the Parliament to decide through the people of Australia. But instead, it's been subcontracted out to an unelected, power-hungry bureaucrat. Just listen to this.
The language of the ban is that social media platforms will be required to take reasonable steps to prevent under-16s from holding accounts. What does reasonable steps mean?
I mean, reasonable steps is a pretty common test under the law, and I think it comes down to common sense. And in this case in particular, it comes down to whether the E-Safety Commissioner is satisfied. It's down to whether the E-Safety Commissioner is satisfied. It's down to whether the E-Safety Commissioner is satisfied.
So there you heard it in the minister's own words. What are reasonable steps, in her words were, is whether the E-Safety Commissioner is satisfied. Well, Minister, it should not be up to the E-Safety Commissioner to decide that she is satisfied how the laws of this nation work. That is the job of the Parliament. That is the reason why we have elections and elect members of Parliament to make decisions, not subcontract them out to an unelected, power-hungry bureaucrat. So what we have here in Australia, how this age verification is going to work, is not going to be decided by the Parliament. It's going to be decided by someone that suffers from Trump derangement syndrome, that actually wanted President Trump to be censored off social media platforms.
During his presidency, Donald Trump not only savagely abused foes online with impunity, but was identified as a major superspreader of mis and disinformation. However, his online audience was so sizable and his content went so viral that none of the major platforms suspended him for repeated policy violations, making excuses for vaguely worded exceptions for public figures.
Because she believed President Trump was sprouting misinformation before the election campaign. And here's a person that wanted to limit what the Australians, that's us, right, hear and see on the internet.
The First Amendment does not apply in Australia.
Well, we have a range of graduated powers. There could be civil proceedings and we could take them to court or we could fine them. Of course, the quantum of the fine would depend on the gravity of the noncompliance, but we can use graduated tools like link deletion notices. So if they fail to remove the content, then we can go to the search engines such as Google or Bing to really minimize the amount of content the Australians can see. To really minimize the amount of content the Australians can see.
The First Amendment does not apply in Australia.
This is not the person that should be making these decisions. It should be the Parliament. Now, secondly, here's the minister saying, and I quote her, everyone has had 12 months notice and there are 4 months to go.
What other action are you considering there?
Look, in terms of my priorities, absolutely we are working towards delivering the social media ban come 10 December. Everybody's had 12 months notice and we've got 4 months to go.
Well, no, Minister. We still do not know, with only a little over 120 days to go until Australians' accounts are going to be disconnected from the internet, unless they comply with these regulations, whatever they are. We still do not know what these regulations are. The E-Safety Commissioner is still making them up. Before any date was set about when these rules are going to come into place, these rules should have been written down in black and white so they could have been debated in the Parliament and by the public. But instead, here we are, just over 120 days to go. The E-Safety Commissioner has 8 months to come up with these rules, and I'm sure a long time before that. And yet here we are, with 4 months to go. We still do not know how it's going to work, because we know what their plan is, to bring it in at the very last minute. Their plan is to bring it in at the very last minute, to limit the public debate and to force Australians just to go ahead and comply without protesting. Well, we're not going to fall for that. We're not going to cop that. That's why this protest is being organised for the Saturday, the 13th of September, outside the E-Safety Commissioner's office down there at Pyrmont Bay Park. That's why that protest is set there for this date. We cannot have this woman deciding at the last minute what the rules are going to be without there being proper debate and proper scrutiny by the Parliament. So what's been going on for these 8 months and this delay has been this farcical so-called age assurance trial. Now, this is just a complete joke. The idea that they could scan your face through your computer or through your iPhone or through your phone and determine whether you are 15 years, 364 days, or 16 years and 1 day is a complete and utter joke. A 12-year-old child would be able to tell you that cannot possibly work. You cannot determine a person's age to within a day by scanning their face, especially in a low resolution over the internet. Just have a look at the results of some of this farcical trial.
Children as young as 15 were repeatedly misidentified as being in their 20s and 30s during recent government trials of age-checking tools, raising fresh doubts about whether the teen social media ban is viable. For more, we're joined by national technology reporter Ange Lavoie-Pierre in Sydney. Ange, you've seen these tools up close. How well do they work?
Yeah, it's been pretty interesting watching it play out in the classroom. You can kind of hear the ripple go around the room as kids get wrong results. So this is, I guess, some of the results that we got from kids in the classroom in Canberra at John Paul College.
1 minute I'm getting 15, the next I'm getting 19, okay. So like 27. Maybe not.
Oh, it gave me 29, that same one, right
really?
Just looking at it. And I've been told my whole life I look like about 4 years younger than what I actually am.
I'm getting, 23, upwards of 23.
On all the tests?
On majority, yeah.
19, 37, 26, and I think it was 23 as well.
Okay, wow.
So, yeah, it's pretty inconsistent.
13. I just got 13. Went from 15 to 14 to 13. Getting younger by the minute. Getting younger.
Now, they knew that wasn't going to work. Anyone that thought it could work is simply an incompetent person that should not have a high-paying job in government. As I said, a 12-year-old child would tell you it is impossible to look at someone either up front in person or with some biometric scanning and determine their age to the nearest day. Is completely and utter nonsense. But yet that is what the E-Safety Commissioner has been spending 8 months on, doing this ridiculous trial. And the reason they've done that is for delay, so they can bring in their methods, these unscrupulous methods that they want at the very last minute, and also that they can say, oh, look, we tried and it didn't work, so now you've got to upload your digital ID. And the facial scanning that you'll be undertaken will be based upon an image that is held of you on some foreign server. So what it's going to require, your 85-year-old mother is likely to have to undergo facial digital scanning. And the idea of keeping Australian children safe, just think about this. Every 16-year-old boy and girl in this country is likely to have a digital image of themselves attached to their digital ID, which will be held in a database on a server in a foreign country. And with TikTok, that will include China. So the image of every single 16-year-old boy and girl in this country that wants to have an internet account will be held in a foreign server overseas. What could possibly go wrong? That's why this is not about protecting the children. If you look at the risks that would come to 16-year-old kids from having their image stored, the digital biometric image of themselves stored overseas on foreign servers, that is a far, far greater risk than what we have now. But of course, this is how most leftist policy works. They come up with these brilliant ideas about more government interference, and what you find every single time, the sum of the unintended consequences, the harmful unintended consequences, cause greater harm than the actual problem that they were trying to solve. And this age verification will be exactly the same. So make no mistake. Here's Green Senator David Shoebridge, and I hope that the Greens become more vocal on this and stand up for free speech, pointing out that this is going to apply to every single Australian.
Of course, if you're testing to see if someone's 13 or 14 or 15 or 16, you're also testing to see, by definition, if they're 16 plus. So if there's going to be age verification, everybody is going to have to go through an age verification process, won't they?
Yes.
Yes.
So this isn't just about the privacy or collecting data about kids. This is literally everybody accessing social media. That's how it has to work, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, we've seen overseas in the UK where up to 30 people a day are being arrested for social media posts. That is what is planned by these globalists here in Australia. They want to control the internet. They want to control the comments that are said. They don't want dissent. And the best way they can do it is to ensure that they can track down every single Australian that posts a comment on the internet. That is what this age verification is all about. It has absolutely nothing to do with protecting the children. So if you want to sit back and just let this happen, just please go ahead, govern me harder, Daddy, or get out there and protest. As I said, we've got that protest set down for Saturday, the 13th of September, outside the E-Safety Commissioner's office down there at Pyrmont Bay Park. If we can get out there in big numbers and send a message that this is completely flawed legislation, that the public sees through it, we know it's a Trojan horse for more government surveillance, we can put pressure on the Albanese government to drop it altogether, or to at least postpone it. And if it's postponed, more Australians will wake up and once they understand what is actually involved, and this thing will eventually be killed off. We were successful before. If we go back to 1987, we were successful beating the Australia Guard. We go back to the Eureka Stockade. Those miners back in 1854 were successful in ending the miners' licence. It's now our turn to stand up and fight, to stop this digital ID.
Do you believe that the First Amendment has too high a bar for the online era?
The First Amendment does not apply in Australia. The First Amendment does not apply in Australia.
I know, but you're an American, so I thought in general, as a standard for freedom of expression, do you think that's too high of one?
No, I don't apply that. I apply the laws of the Australian government.
It's down to whether the E-Safety Commissioner is satisfied.